we will review the profit and loss and balance sheet together to understand how the view under P&L link to the balance sheet. So let's go to P&L and let's start with the first transaction under quarter 3 because there is no figures under quarter 1 and quarter 2. So there is a revenue transactions with a total amount of 1.2 mil in quarter 3 under P&L. And whenever we have revenue recognition that's impacting to P&L, the other part of it impacting to short-term receivables in the balance sheet, debit part, let's say. And if we go to balance sheet, let's find this 1.2 mil. And we go to quarter 3, and in quarter 3 you see the short-term receivables, the other part of this transaction impacting to balance sheet. Let's also try to link this cost of goods sold. As you see the cost of goods sold with the total amount of 674.7k under P&L quarter 3. Let's go to balance sheet. And if you remember from previous lesson, the cost of goods sold is the difference between work in progress transferred to finished goods in quarter 3, and then part of it from the quarter within the same quarter it was transferred from finished goods to COGS. Meaning, if you find this difference between this work in progress and finished goods, it will give us the cost of goods sold. And as you see, I sum up this 4 line, the total gives us 674.7k, exactly what we see under P&L. Then we have net profit and loss. Net profit and loss amount with the total amount of 556.4k under P&L in quarter 3. If you go to the balance sheet, it is always linked to the return earnings or accumulated loss. And we see exactly the same amount here. Let's also check the quarter and the transactions happen in quarter 4. The most important was to link this revenue and cost of goods sold related transaction. And understand the relationship between the P&L and balance sheet. But also let's review what happened in quarter 4. In quarter 4, these are the supporting costs happened in P&L, and this is not visible. That these numbers from the figures perspective, it's not visible in balance sheet, but it is related to the payable to vendors and payable to employees. I will explain shortly. Because this expense under quarter 4 in P&L are the service either received from the vendors or from the employees, right? For example, personal cost is the service received from the payable to employees, while others are service received from the third parties. So meaning these are impacting to, depending on the nature of the expense, it impacts to either payable to vendors or payable to employees. But here we will not be able to see exactly the same numbers as we see under P&L, because in quarter 4, if you remember from previous lesson, there was also payment like final settlement between the company ABC and this payable to vendors and payable to employees. So the numbers we see here is the difference between the number we see in quarter 4 is the difference between the settlements and also the additional supporting cost occurred within the same quarter. And this, when we say this additional supporting cost, that one is what we see in P&L. So that's why visually we will not be able to match it, but from logical perspective, it is important to understand how these are linked. So from the logical perspective, to sum up, whenever we have here the figures, which is debiting and sitting under expense lines of the P&L, it is crediting balance sheet and sitting under liability accounts.